The atmosphere in the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber had never been so tense. 500 representatives from across the known universe sat in rigid silence, their varied anatomies, from the crystalline Vrix to the gaseous Moa, all equally still with shock. On the massive holographic display dominating the center of the chamber, a single vessel hung suspended in the darkness of space. Its design was unlike anything the assembled delegates had ever witnessed. Brutal, utilitarian, with none of the artistic flourishes that characterized ships from established spacefaring civilizations. "Impossible," whispered High Chancellor Tovlor. Thal, his 6 eyes blinking in rapid succession as he studied the readings. "The energy signatures are incalculable." Ambassador Ilara Tizin of the Lysithian Confederation leaned forward, her luminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. "Chancellor, we need confirmation. Could this be some kind of natural phenomenon? Perhaps an asteroid with unusual mineral composition?" The Chancellor's assistant, a small reptilian being named Viz, cleared his throat. "The scans are conclusive, Excellencies. It's artificial. And it's armed. Heavily." A murmur rippled through the chamber as delegates conferred with their aides, the collective whisper rising to a fearful crescendo. "Where did it come from?" demanded Representative Corlu of the Centaurian Alliance, his metallic voice echoing across the chamber. "How could we have missed the development of such technology?" "It came from the Sol system," said Admiral Pax Tora, the head of the Council's Defense Committee. Her voice was steady, but those who knew her could detect the underlying tremor of concern. "From Earth." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Earth. The isolated blue world in an unremarkable solar system that the Galactic Council had been monitoring for centuries. The planet whose inhabitants had been deemed too primitive, too volatile, too unpredictable to approach. The humans who had been scheduled for first contact in approximately 200 years, once they had matured as a species. The humans who had, apparently, decided not to wait. "Show us the full scan," ordered Chancellor Silverthal. The hologram zoomed out, revealing the true scale of the human vessel. It dwarfed the Council's observation satellites. Along its gunmetal hull, weapons ports were clearly visible. Dozens of them, their design suggesting capabilities that made even the most seasoned military minds in the chamber grow cold. "They call it the Retribution," Admiral Pax Tora continued, reading from her data tablet. "Our intelligence suggests it's their first interstellar warship, not an exploration vessel, not a diplomatic envoy. A warship. How did they achieve this level of technology?" asked Ambassador Tizin. "Our last assessment indicated they were at least a century away from developing functional faster-than-light travel." A new voice entered the conversation, soft, melodic, and eerily calm given the circumstances. They reversed engineered it. All eyes turned to the slender figure who had risen from the shadows at the back of the chamber. Science Director Nick Sleth, the Council's foremost cynoanthropologist and the leading expert on human development. Her species, the Elixir, were known for their analytical minds and emotional detachment, but even Nick Sleth couldn't hide her fascination. "Reversed engineered from what?" the Chancellor demanded. "From one of our own scout ships," Nick Sleth replied, her silver eyes reflecting the holographic display. "The one that crashed in their North American continent 75 Earth years ago." The chamber erupted in chaos. "Silence," thundered the Chancellor, slamming his ceremonial staff against the floor. When order was restored, he fixed Nick Sleth with an accusatory stare. "Why wasn't the Council informed of this crash?" "It was deemed insignificant at the time," Nick Sleth explained. "The scout ship was small, its technology rudimentary by our standards. The crew perished in the crash. According to our protocols, primitive species rarely salvage anything useful from such incidents. We had no reason to believe humans would be different." "Clearly, they are," said Admiral Pax Tora. "And now they're here, at the edge of Council space, with technology they shouldn't possess and weapons they shouldn't understand. Have they made any demands?" asked Representative Corlew. The Admiral shook her head. No communication yet. They're just waiting. For what? Someone called out. No one had an answer. In the tense silence that followed, Science Director Nick Sleth stepped forward, her movements deliberate as she approached the hologram. She studied the human vessel with what could only be described as admiration. "You are all missing the most important question," she said quietly. "If this is what humans built from the wreckage of a single scout ship, what else have they created? And more critically, why send this vessel now? They must know they're revealing themselves to us before they have a full fleet." Chancellor Exorthal's expression darkened. Unless they already have a fleet. The implication sent another wave of unease through the chamber. "There's something else," Admiral Pax Tora added, her voice dropping. "Our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual activity near the human vessel before it appeared. Energy fluctuations consistent with a tear in spacetime." "You're suggesting they've developed jump technology?" Science Director Nick Sleth asked, her composure finally cracking. "That's thousands of years beyond where they should be." "I'm suggesting," the Admiral replied grimly, "that we don't know what they've developed. And that scares me more than anything else." As if responding to their fear, the human vessel suddenly powered up, its massive engines glowing with an ominous blue light. The Council's monitoring systems registered a spike in energy readings that briefly overloaded the holographic display. And then, communication. A single transmission, directed precisely at the Galactic Council's headquarters. When it was decrypted and translated, the message consisted of just 7 words. "We know you've been watching. We're watching back." Chancellor Exorthal stared at the message, then at the imposing silhouette of the human battleship. For the first time in his 300-year political career, he felt true uncertainty about the future of the galaxy. "Prepare a response," he ordered finally, "and summon the War Council. I have a feeling we're going to need them." No one in the Grand Chamber spoke as the human ship hung in space, a dark promise of things to come. The game of galactic politics had changed forever, and humanity had just made its opening move. As the council chamber descended into hushed, frantic discussions, Admiral Pax Tora pulled Chancellor Torthal and Science Director Nick Sleth into a private antechamber. The room, designed for sensitive discussions, automatically engaged its privacy shields, a shimmering blue field that prevented any form of surveillance. "There's more," Pax Tora said, her scaled skin flushing the deep purple with stress. "Information I couldn't share with the full council without causing a panic." Chancellor Exorthal settled his massive frame into a chair designed to accommodate his species' unique anatomy. "Speak freely, Admiral." "The human vessel, the Retribution, it's not alone." She activated a small projector built into her wrist guard. A 3-dimensional map of the sector appeared, showing not just the human battleship, but 3 smaller craft positioned strategically around it. These appeared moments after we detected the battleship. They're maintaining perfect formation, and their energy signatures suggest they're running some kind of advanced stealth technology. Our sensors barely detected them. Nick Sleth's silver eyes widened. "Scout ships. More likely escort vessels," Pax Tora replied grimly. "Armed and capable of independent FTL travel, based on their configurations." Chancellor Exorthal's 6 eyes blinked in sequential agitation. "A coordinated fleet action. This is no accident or isolated incident." "No," agreed the Admiral. "This is first contact on their terms." Nick Sleth moved closer to the projection, studying the human vessels with the clinical interest that had made her the Council's leading authority on developing species. "I warned the Council about humans 50 years ago. My research showed significant divergences from standard evolutionary patterns. They advance through crisis rather than stability. Their technological development accelerates during periods of conflict." "You're saying they're naturally warlike?" asked the Chancellor. "I'm saying they're adaptable in ways we aren't," corrected Nick Sleth. Their history is a series of existential threats overcome through innovation. Predators, climate shifts, diseases, and most notably, each other. They've survived multiple near-extinction events. Pax Torres' expression darkened. The crash site you mentioned. What exactly did they recover? Nix Leth hesitated. Our assessment teams believed the ship's core systems were beyond salvage. The propulsion system was completely destroyed, the AI core was corrupted, and the weapons systems were non-functional. Yet somehow they rebuilt it all, the Chancellor observed. Not rebuilt, Nix Leth said quietly. Reimagined. Look at this vessel. It bears almost no resemblance to Council designs. They didn't just copy our technology. They understood the principles and created something new. A soft chime interrupted them. The door shimmered as Viz, the Chancellor's assistant, was granted entry. Excellencies, the small reptilian being said, his voice quavering slightly. The humans are broadcasting again. They returned to the main chamber where the Council representatives had fallen into an uneasy silence. On the central hologram, the imposing silhouette of the Retribution remained, but now a communication window had opened beside it. No image, just audio. A human voice, deep and measured, speaking in perfect galactic standard. Galactic Council, this is Captain Thomas Chen of the Earth Defensive Fleet Vessel Retribution. We request a direct audience with your leadership. We come with information critical to the survival of all sentient species in this sector. You have 6 hours to respond before we proceed to your central worlds without authorization. This is not a threat. It is a necessity. The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. How do they know our language? Demanded Representative Corlew, his metallic voice pitched higher than usual with alarm. More importantly, said Ambassador Tizin, how do they know about our central worlds? That information is classified even within the Council. Admiral Pax Torres stepped forward, her military training evident in her composed demeanor despite the crisis. The observation posts we've maintained around Sol system were designed to be undetectable to pre-FTL civilizations. But if they've mastered jump technology and reverse-engineered our systems, they could have captured our observers, finished the Chancellor, or more likely, intercepted our transmissions. For how long? Someone called out. No one answered. No one wanted to consider the implications. Science Director Nix Leth moved to the central podium, and the chamber quieted. Few challenged the authority of an elixir scientist on matters of analysis. The human spoke of survival, she noted. Not conquest, not demands. Survival. We should consider what threat might compel them to reveal themselves this way. It's clearly a deception, scoffed Representative Corlew. A primitive species trying to manipulate us with fear. Nix Leth fixed him with her silver gaze. Is it primitive to build a battleship that outclasses our defense fleet? Is it primitive to develop jump technology independently? The humans have hidden their true capabilities from us for decades. We should ask ourselves why they choose to reveal themselves now. A silence fell over the chamber as her words sank in. In that moment of quiet reflection, Viz approached the Chancellor again, holding a secure data tablet. The Chancellor read it, his expression unreadable to most species in the chamber. But Nix Leth, who had studied thousands of sentient races, recognized the subtle signs of fear. What is it? She asked. Chancellor Torthal looked up, addressing the Council with grave formality. We've just received word from Outpost Sigma 9, near the Quantum Rift. 3 patrol vessels have gone silent. Their last transmission reported an unknown force emerging from the rift. He paused, struggling visibly with his next words. The description matches nothing in our records, but the outpost commander noted that the objects, the ships, if that's what they are, were consuming everything in their path. Asteroids, station debris, even energy itself. The Void Harbingers, whispered an elderly delegate from the back of the chamber. The words triggered a wave of fearful murmurs. That's just an old legend, Admiral Pax Torres said sharply, but her confidence seemed forced. Is it? Chancellor Xorthel challenged. The ancient texts speak of entities that feed on matter and energy, that cannot be reasoned with or deterred. Creatures that emerge from tears in reality every 50,000 years. Ambassador Tizen rose to her feet. Even if such things exist, what does this have to do with the humans? Why would they know about threats from the quantum rift? All eyes turned to the hologram of the Retribution, still waiting at the edge of council space. Perhaps, Science Director Nick Sleth said softly, we should ask them. 6 hours had nearly elapsed, and the council chamber had transformed into a war room. Holographic displays showed the encroaching anomalies from the quantum rift. Dark, shifting masses that defied conventional scanning. 3 more outposts had gone silent. We've made our decision, Chancellor Xorthal announced to the assembled representatives. We will grant the humans their audience. Not everyone agreed. Representative Corlew slammed his metallic fist against the chamber rail. This could be a coordinated attack. These humans arrived just as unknown entities emerge from the rift. The timing is too convenient, or perfectly logical, countered Science Director Nick Sleth. If the humans have been monitoring us for decades, they would know about the rift and its cycles. Before further debate could erupt, the central hologram shifted. The image of the Retribution dissolved, replaced by the figure of a human male. Captain Thomas Chen stood tall in a midnight blue uniform adorned with minimal insignia. His posture was rigid, his expression grave but composed. Behind him stood 3 other humans, 2 women and 1 man, similarly attired but with different rank markers. The chamber fell silent. For many representatives, this was their first direct observation of a human, not filtered through research reports or distant surveillance. Chancellor Xorthal, Captain Chen said with a formal nod. Thank you for accepting this communication. The Chancellor stepped forward. Captain Chen, the Council is curious about your sudden appearance in our space, as we are curious about your centuries-long surveillance of our world. Chen replied evenly. The statement wasn't delivered as an accusation, merely a confirmation that humanity's awareness extended further than the Council had realized. Admiral Pax Torum moved beside the Chancellor. Your ship bears weapons capabilities beyond anything your species should possess. A slight smile touched Chen's lips. Should possess. According to whose timeline? You violated numerous Council protocols regarding technological development and... Chen raised his hand, a gesture surprisingly effective in silencing the Admiral. With respect, we never agreed to your protocols. Earth never petitioned for Council membership. We never consented to your observation or classification. One of the human women stepped forward, older than Chen, with close-cropped gray hair and piercing eyes. I'm Admiral Helena Rivera, commanding officer of Earth's defensive fleet. We don't have time for diplomatic posturing. The harvesters have returned. A collective murmur swept through the council chamber. Science Director Nick Sleth moved closer to the hologram. You call them harvesters. We know them as void harbingers. Different names, same threat, Rivera replied. They emerge from quantum rifts every 50,000 years to consume all matter and energy in their path. This cycle has begun again. How could you possibly know this? Demanded the Chancellor. Captain Chen's expression hardened. Because they've been to Earth before. 10,000 years ago, a small advance force emerged from a minor rift in our system. Our ancestors fought them with primitive weapons, spears, arrows, fire. Millions died, civilizations collapsed, but humanity survived. The third human, a man with dark skin and intense eyes, stepped forward. I'm Dr. James Harper, head of Xenorchaeology. We've spent centuries piecing together what happened. Cave paintings, oral histories, archaeological anomalies, all pointing to a devastating invasion. The crash you detected 75 years ago wasn't the first alien contact with Earth, continued Chen. Just the first your council witnessed. We found older wreckage, council ships from previous cycles, observation posts destroyed by the harvesters. The revelation stunned the chamber into silence. Admiral Rivera pressed on. We didn't build the Retribution just to impress you. We built it because we knew they were coming back. And this time, they're not sending an advance force. They're coming in full strength. On cue, the holographic display split to show real-time footage from the quantum rift. Dark, formless entities poured through like ink spilling into water. Where they touched space stations, asteroids, or patrol ships, matter simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but consumed. We've been tracking similar anomalies in our system for months, said Chen. We've developed weapons that can harm them, shields that can repel them, but we can't stop them alone. Chancellor Xorthal's 6 eyes narrowed. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not stay hidden if you've known about us all along? Chen exchanged glances with his colleagues before answering. Because the harvesters aren't just coming for us this time. They're coming for everyone. And because. He hesitated. Tell them, urged Dr. Harper. Captain Chen took a deep breath. Because we've captured one of them. And what we've learned changes everything. The silence that followed Captain Chen's revelation was shattered by alarms blaring throughout the council chamber. Emergency lights pulsed crimson as security protocols activated automatically. We're detecting a massive energy surge, cried one of the council technicians, their tentacles flying across control surfaces. Something's breaching our defensive perimeter. Admiral Pax Tor rushed to the tactical display. Impossible. Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy. Nothing cooled. The chamber shuddered violently. Overhead lights flickered and died, plunging everything into darkness before emergency systems engage. It's not the harvesters, Admiral Rivera said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Even through the holographic transmission, her certainty was palpable. The energy signature is wrong. The main display shifted to show the space surrounding the council headquarters. A massive tear had opened in the fabric of reality itself, not the chaotic wound of the quantum rift, but something more deliberate, with edges that pulsed with mathematical precision. Through this artificial rift emerged a vessel that dwarfed even the Retribution. Its design was unmistakably human in origin, but incorporated elements that seemed to bend and distort space around it. Where the Retribution was utilitarian and brutal, this ship was elegant and terrifying. Less a vessel and more a mobile fortress. That's the Prometheus, Captain Chen whispered, genuine shock in his voice. But that's impossible. It's still under construction in Earth orbit. Obviously not, Dr. Harper said grimly. Chancellor Xorthal turned to the humans, 6 eyes wide with accusation. You claim to come in peace while launching a surprise attack. This isn't us, Admiral Rivera insisted. At least, not the us you're speaking with now. Before anyone could process her cryptic statement, the new vessel broadcast its own transmission. The face that appeared on screen struck the council chamber silent once more. It was Captain Thomas Chen, or rather, someone identical to him in every way, except for a jagged scar running from his left temple to his jaw, and eyes that held none of the restraint or diplomacy of the Captain Chen addressing the council. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, the scared Chen said, his voice harder and more clipped than his counterparts. But time is a luxury we no longer have. The two Chens stared at each other through their respective transmissions. Who are you? Demanded the unscarred Chen. I knew Thomas. From approximately 8 months in your future. The scared Chen's expression was grim. I've come back to prevent you from making a catastrophic mistake. Admiral Rivera stepped forward. Time travel is theoretical at best, even our most advanced. The harvester you captured, interrupted the scared Chen. You haven't examined it closely enough. What you believe is a prisoner is actually a Trojan horse. Dr. Harper's face drained of color. What are you saying? The harvesters aren't just coming to consume. They're coming to transform. Scared Chen's eyes moved from his counterpart to the council representatives. And they've already begun the process, with humanity as their first converts. He touched a control panel off-screen. The image widened to reveal his bridge crew. What the council saw sent waves of horror through the chamber. The humans aboard the Prometheus were changing. Portions of their bodies shimmered with the same dark, formless matter that characterized the harvesters, as though they were caught between states of being. "This," said the scared Chen, gesturing to his half-transformed crew, "is what happens when you study the harvester too closely. And in approximately 6 hours, it will happen to everyone aboard the Retribution." Chaos erupted in both the council chamber and aboard the Retribution. Security forces moved to surround the holographic projectors as if they could somehow contain the threat. Meanwhile, the present Captain Chen turned to his crew, barking orders to secure the containment chamber where the captured harvester was being held. "Seal it off. Full quarantine protocols," he commanded, his composed demeanor fracturing under the weight of this revelation. Chancellor Exorthal raised all 6 arms, demanding silence from the panicked council representatives. "How do we know you're telling the truth?" He challenged the scared Chen from the future. "This could be a deception from the harvesters themselves." "You don't have time for skepticism," future Chen replied sharply. "The transformation has already begun at a molecular level in everyone who's been within 50 meters of the specimen." Dr. Harper frantically checked readings on his tablet. "He's right. There are quantum-level anomalies in the cellular structures of the research team. How did we miss this?" "Because the changes were designed to be missed," future Chen explained. "The harvesters evolved beyond simple consumption. They learned that resistance was inevitable, so they developed subtler methods. They don't just destroy civilizations, they become them." Admiral Rivera from the present timeline stepped forward. "If what you're saying is true, how did you escape transformation? How do you still maintain human form and consciousness?" The scared Chen's expression darkened. "I didn't say I escaped it." He rolled up his sleeve to reveal an arm that flickered between solid matter and the same dark, formless substance as the harvesters. "I'm fighting it every second. We developed a suppression field that slows the process, but it's failing. We have weeks, maybe days left of humanity." Present, Chen's face hardened with determination. "Then we destroy the specimen now. We burn it out of existence. You can't destroy it conventionally," his future self warned. "We tried. Weapons, radiation, even throwing it into a star. Nothing worked. The only thing that showed any effect was—" The transmission suddenly distorted. Alarms blared aboard the future ship. "They found us," future Chen said urgently. "The Harvester Collective can sense when their plans are threatened. They're coming for both of us now." The tactical display confirmed his warning. The dark entities from the quantum rift had changed course, accelerating directly toward the Council headquarters and both human vessels. Science Director Nick Sleth, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly moved to the central platform. "The quantum resonance," she said, eyes wide with realization. "That's it, isn't it? The Council's ancient archives mentioned a frequency that disrupts their molecular cohesion." Future Chen looked at her with surprise. "Yes, but we never found the correct modulation. We tried thousands of combinations." "Because you were working with incomplete information," Nick Sleth replied. "The full equations were separated for security. Half in the human archives, half in ours. Then we combine our knowledge," President Chen said firmly. Immediately, Chancellor Exorthal hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Transfer the archives to the humans." As the data transfer began, the doors to the council chamber burst open. Standing in the doorway was Science Director Nick Sleth, a second, identical version, looking horrified at her counterpart at the podium. "Stop the transfer," the new Nick Sleth shouted. "That's not me." The Nick Sleth at the podium smiled, her silver eyes darkening to bottomless black. Her form rippled, the elegant elixir features dissolving into something ancient and terrible. "Too late," she said, her voice now a chorus of thousands. "The division ends. All becomes one." The data transfer completed with a decisive chime. But what passed to the human vessels wasn't salvation, it was corruption. The Harvesters hadn't just infiltrated humanity. They had infiltrated the Galactic Council itself and had been waiting centuries for this exact moment. Time seemed to freeze as realization dawned across both timelines. The corrupted Nyx-Leth's form continued to shift, growing larger as it absorbed energy from the Council's systems. Darkness spread across the chamber floor like living ink. "The transfer," Future Chen said urgently, his voice cutting through the shock. "What exactly did you send us?" The false Nyx-Leth laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally. "The final key. The command codes to your suppression field. Now there's nothing to slow the transformation." On both human vessels, systems began to fail. The scared Chen's crew members doubled over in pain as their partial transformations accelerated. Aboard the Retribution, the containment alerts blared as the captured Harvester specimen grew stronger. But Captain Chen, the present timeline's Chen, was smiling. "Thank you for confirming what I suspected," he said calmly. He turned to his communications officer. "Lieutenant, send the signal." Admiral Rivera nodded in understanding. "You knew." "Not with certainty," Chen admitted, "but their behavior pattern was too perfect. The Harvesters have been studying us for centuries, learning to mimic us, but they made one critical mistake. The real Nyx-Leth stepped forward. They can copy our forms, our knowledge, even our memories, but they can't replicate authentic uncertainty. No real scientist would be so confident in their conclusions." Chancellor Exorthal looked between them in confusion. "What signal did you send?" "A false data packet," Chen explained. "What the Harvester just transmitted wasn't our suppression codes. It was a modified version of our quantum resonance research, tagged with a tracking algorithm." "Future," Shen's eyes widened in understanding. "You're tracking the signal back to their central consciousness." "Exactly," Present Chen confirmed. "The Harvesters may be everywhere, but they're still connected. They're still one entity spread across many forms." On the tactical display, the dark masses emerging from the quantum rift suddenly paused, as if confused. The corrupted Nyx-Leth's form stuttered mid-transformation. "What have you done?" it hissed, its many voices discordant with alarm. "Something you didn't anticipate," Admiral Rivera answered. "We humans have a particular talent for turning an enemy's strength into a weakness." Future Chen's partially transformed crew members straightened, pain momentarily forgotten as they watched their tactical displays. "The signal is propagating through their network. It's working." The false Nyx-Leth shrieked, a sound that transcended species and nightmares. Its form began to disintegrate, not into the familiar darkness of the Harvesters, but into ordinary matter, cosmic dust that sparkled briefly before settling to the chamber floor. Throughout the council space, reports flooded in of Harvester entities similarly dissolving. The dark masses retreating back through the quantum rift, as if fleeing. "It won't destroy them all," the real Nyx-Leth cautioned, "but it's disrupted their collective consciousness. They'll need time to recover, to adapt. Time we'll use wisely," Chancellor Exorthal said, turning to Captain Chen with newfound respect. "It seems we've underestimated humanity in more ways than one." The scarred Chen from the future looked down at his arm, watching as the darkness receded, revealing normal human skin beneath. "This timeline, it's already different from mine. And that means we can prevent what happened to you," Present Chen said firmly. As the future Prometheus began to fade, its crew members returning to a timeline that might no longer exist, Future Chen locked eyes with his present self. "Remember, Thomas, the Harvesters will return. They always do. But next time," Admiral Rivera said, stepping to present Chen's side, "they won't find divided species trying to face them alone." Chancellor Exorthal extended 3 of his 6 hands in the Council's most formal gesture of alliance. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The day the humans revealed themselves and saved us all." Captain Chen took a deep breath and accepted the gesture. Behind him, the imposing silhouette of the Retribution seemed less threatening now. not a harbinger of war, but a sentinel against a greater darkness. The first human battleship had indeed changed everything, just not in the way anyone had expected.